Simon Hicks.
They'll loosen up that line. You won't see 11 players within 5 yards of that
I
body.
think I mentioned, what, a bludgeoning or something like that. That's what they came out and did.
7 state championships since 2014.
I tell you what, for those young men, there's no better feeling right now.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another edition of Fyffe Focus, the podcast presented by our friends at Froggy Freeze. That's right, our friends over at Froggy Freeze, bringing you this podcast each and every week. And boy, oh boy, we're so glad that they have come on and joined us for now what is episode number 5 of the first season of Fyffe Focus, the podcast. Again, Froggy Freeze bringing that to you. I want to tell you a little bit about Froggy Freeze. If you haven't heard already, these folks are everywhere. They are all across the map. Our friends over at Froggy Freeze, Miss Johnson, Levon, they are all over the place. They have 3 trailers. They're mainly at Fyffe games, but dadgummit, when Fyffe Pee Wee ball is not playing or a Fyffe baseball, softball game's not going on, they also have 2 other trailers on top of the one that they send over there that they'll send anywhere that you want them to be at. They will come to you, and all you got to do is give them a call. That number, 256-717-7239. Again, 256-717-7239. And again, they are licensed. They are certified. They are going to make sure that you are taken care of. Great flavors, 35 plus. It's kind of like a smorgasbord. And when they allow you to mix and match, it's really more than 35 flavors. You can make up your own flavor if you want with everything that they got. I'm sure that if you wanted to try all 35 at once, they would mash it all together for you. You might get a stomachache later. I don't know, but they do it for you. I promise you that. And I'll tell you what, too. We uploaded it earlier this week. Their radio commercial, not only are they sponsoring the podcast here for the online side of things, they're on Fun Radio, 92.7 FM HD2 on the True Oldies channel. And you can check that out at 92.7 HD2 if you have an HD radio in your truck. Drew and I do not. I know that because we drive the same type of truck. But a lot of people are getting those HD radios now. Tune into the True Oldies channel. You'll hear their message front and center a lot throughout the day. But also, go back and check out our Facebook page. Go back a video or two, and you're going to find their message and just listen to it. It's like 35, 38 seconds. It's got every bit of the info you're going to need for Froggy Freeze. Again, that number, 256-717-7239. Get them out to one of your events today, church, function, family reunion, whatever it is. They're going to come out and be there for you. Might try to get them for a birthday party. I know of a young lady who's in my house currently that's got a birthday coming up in May that really loves shaved ice. I might see if I can get them rented for her birthday. Listen, I'm married to a woman who wanted a bounce house slide thing for her birthday a couple of years ago. I know Drew remembers that because they came over. That might have been last year anyway. So she's not above and beyond going out and adventuring. And so this would be an adventure to get a shaved ice trailer at a birthday party. So listen, take my advice. Call the folks at Froggy Freeze Shaved Ice. One more time, that number, 256-717-7239. I'm Adam Ward alongside Drew Sims, Jonathan Bartlett, and Jeremy Johnson. Greg Mears not with us. We were all excited because episode 5 sort of hitting the stride, if you will. And we were like, yeah, we're finally going to get everybody back. We're going to get everybody on for the first time. And at the last moment, literally seconds before we came on, Greg had to step away because of a work situation. So, Greg, we miss you, man. We won't be able to do the Where Was Greg t-shirt segment tonight, but we're going to fill it with some other interesting things. Let's get going tonight. First of all, if you're not following us, look at our socials. They're up on the screen. Follow us on our socials at Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and, of course, on Spotify to get all the episodes. Now, to tell you what's upcoming on this week's episode, Drew is back with us. We were going to do this last week. He couldn't be with us last week due to a school situation. So Drew is with us. So Drew is going to give us an in-depth look at what goes on in the offseason, particularly right now, and spring practice. You know, some of those boys are playing baseball. We got kind of into that 2-sport athlete, 3-sport athlete conversation last week. We're going to talk college football playoffs. Some interesting things were posed earlier this week, or latter half of last week, rather, by Reese Davis, former Alabama graduate. And then, of course, the 10 minutes crap segment. And coming up at 5, I don't know where the 10 minutes of crap is going to go. I told the guys, let's not tell each other. Let's just let it be a surprise. I said, let's bring our A game on this one. We need to have some laughs. We got a little serious last week. Let's get some laughs going up in here tonight. All right, so let's begin. Fyffe off season and spring practice. And Drew, I'm fixing to turn the floor over to you because obviously none of us played for Coach Benefield. You did. You went through several of these off seasons leading up to your senior year, where after your senior year is over, you don't have to worry about the off season. But I'm told that a lot of these off seasons, especially in the spring, when you've got some new kids going to be coming up to the varsity squad, some guys that are moving out, other kids, you're looking at who's going to be stepping up and kind of filling those gaps. I'm told that a lot of times these off-season spring practice kind of deals before summer workouts get here could be a bit of a grind. So what goes into it?
Well, all off season, you start really the week after it's been the state championship game, but really the week after the season's over. Really hitting the weights, Mondays, Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Fridays. Your 2 days are legs and 2 days are arms, and there's all kind of different exercises in there that he sprinkles in that he's obviously thought a lot about. But so I mean 4 days a week, and then that one day on Wednesday is always it's either it's usually agility or speed work is what he calls it. If it's warm enough to go outside, you'll go outside and run parachutes or something like that on that Wednesday. But so you're always doing something. And then spring practice is really about anybody, there's always one or two that want to join, usually want to join the team. And he tells them to come out for spring practice. So to say that spring practices are grueling is an understatement sometimes. It depends on the year, I would say, but it's usually right around when it starts getting hot, not used to it at all. And then you're going to put a helmet and shoulder pads and football pants on and kill each other, basically. I mean, that's the way Coach Benefield uses spring. He uses spring to basically make you decide if you want to be there or not.
So a couple of things. First of all, everybody noticed Drew rocking the mustache tonight. Did you guys notice that?
I did.
Number two, did you ever do the parachute yourself? I never got to see it, but did you do the parachute? And how was that?
I mean, you're just running like normal. That's the key, is to try and run, just like you normally would, no different, not any slower. But the faster you run, the more of a difference it makes. I promise. Not that I ever made much of a difference.
Well, I guess especially after you take the parachute off, you get in a regular practice or you get in the game and you got those pads on, it'll get your speed up. I'm sure of that. One thing that folks may or may not think about is that, in particular with this time of the year, obviously the weight room, Coach Benefield put that heavy importance on it, especially in 2013, 2014, in that time frame. He said, look, we're going to have to change a lot of the way we do things, not just the ugly offense, but we're going to have to change a lot of things and put the emphasis on the weight room. But it seems like what you're telling me is this time of year, going into the summer workouts, go through spring, going into the summer, if you could call it cardio workouts, I guess that would be somewhat of a good way to put it, mainly because you are working on a lot of the agility stuff. Is that a good kind of small reference there?
I would say a lot of your cardio comes in during the summer.
Okay.
Because you don't want to do a whole lot of cardio during the spring and then not do any before summer. That it just kind of puts you on the downhill before you get into the summer. But a lot of it is really about, it's purely, a lot of the drills is about hitting. Full contact, getting back into it.
Yeah.
Because you only get a couple of weeks really of full contact before you play the spring game. I don't think Fyffe has a spring game this year yet. They may, but there's only a couple of weeks of full contact before you got to play in a spring game. So,
yeah. And of course, teams have to follow by HSAA guidelines, rules, and all that. And by the way, just on that point, a lot of folks want to gripe about the HSAA for certain things and rules, and we certainly do it. I do my fair share of griping about certain things where that is concerned. But most of these things that we end up griping about, are actually not necessarily on the AHSAA. They're just enforcing rules that were voted on by coaches. Pretty much every rule that we have in high school sports, not just with football, but in every sport, are voted on by the coaches. They all agree, and it's the AHSAA's job to enforce them. But one of the things that you know they came up with this several years ago, you can either have the extra week in going into fall camp, and by not playing a spring game, or you can play a spring game and just have a regular schedule for your fall. How does Coach Benefield approach a spring game? You played in a few of them yourself. We were on the sidelines last year, all of us, but JB, we were on the sideline for that Valley Head and school. I can't remember what school was out of Chattanooga, up in Valley Head. We were there for that. How does Coach approach it besides leaving his playbook at home like he did in that spring game last week? We found out.
Wow. I mean, it's just another game, really. You want to see where you're at coming out of. I think it does the players good to see where they're at coming out of working out all off season, right? So, you know where you're at when the season's over. Well, then you've worked out all off season, and gotten stronger and done all this work. Well, now let's see where we're at before we really start to grind the summer workouts to get into fall camp. And there was a couple of years that Coach Benefield did take that extra week of fall camp and no spring practice. And I think he's gone back on that because there was always a benefit to playing a spring game. And I think it was evident last year. I mean, they did not look good in the spring game at all. I think they got beat by 2 touchdowns, I think, by the team from Chattanooga.
Yeah.
And then only beat Valley Head by a touchdown, I think. So they did not look like anything like the week 1 team that came out and played against Geraldine at all. So it's good to find out where you're at.
It is. And that spring game also afforded most of us the opportunity to get a first impression of DeBoard and his interaction with Coach. And unfortunately, it wasn't the best one, at least the first one that we saw anyway. But it was a sign of things to come, and how he helped blossom and turn into a great blocker from the tight end position, the wing back position, and things of that nature. And it got started in that spring game up in Valley Head. And I think, to your point, a lot of that can be pivotal to the building of the offseason program through the summer in particular, because once you get through that spring game, now you're just looking at summer workouts. And obviously there's some restrictions there with no pads and stuff. You can't do a lot of these things. You can't go full contact. You can do 7-on-7s and that sort of thing. How does Coach handle the summer? I know when I tell folks that Fyffe has participated in 7-on-7, they look at me funny and like, how does Fyffe do 7-on-7 when they don't throw the ball? But Fyffe does it. In particular, I think last year I remember at least one time with Coosa. I remember seeing pictures of that coming out. So how does Coach handle the summer in particular with things like 7-on-7 and such?
Well, the summer is purely about getting ready for the season, right? So it's all your cardio, and you start off, I would say somewhat, I don't want to say slow, but like you start off, basically you're starting from the ground up, right? Mm-hmm. So you're starting at the ground level and you're working your way up all through June. And then by July, things start to really ramp up, going into August in the season. A lot of times fall camp is that first week of August, second week of August, right in there. So he wants everybody to be totally ready by fall camp to where, whether it's 2 days or whatever, everybody's in shape. But then you get into the real full pads and can really put in the work. But at 7-on-7, there's a lot of time. I mean, he runs his offense. I mean, it's not like he trots something out there that he's never going to run. He runs his offense. And it's pretty funny watching because usually what they'll do is they'll have like the linemen are off doing their own thing during a 7-on-7 while the backs and the receivers and tight ends are kind of, running routes and all that stuff. Doing a normal 7-on-7 that you would see. The lineman stuff don't get taken pictures of because it's not very pretty, I guess. But I mean, it's pretty funny on 7-on-7 to watch the cornerbacks run down and try and guard a tight end off the up out of a 3-point stance. That's just different. I know Coach Benefield could be labeled an old timer, I guess, but uh, this is just the way I remember it, and it could be different now. That's just the way I remember it. I remember when in 2014 when we first put in the ugly offense, or in 2015, the year after, we had a team come up. And basically that's what we did was we got together with their linemen, and we basically went through a practice like we would with our offense, and they coaches were learning and their players were learning, and I think they still run it to this day, I think, but that's just what I remember. Now things could be totally different.
Well, it's funny you mentioned that, because I'll say this, we'll move on. I was just thinking a moment ago, there's a reason when you called Coach Benefield old school, there's a reason why there are a ton of schools that beat down the door year after year of Fyffe's facilities and locker room and saying, hey, can we spend a day with you? Can we spend 2 days? Can we watch film with you? Can we come up here and watch your practice and how you do things? Because we want to do this at our school. We want to try to model what you're doing at our school. I'll never forget. I think it was 2 years ago. I ended up on an assignment that wasn't supposed to be mine. It was a last minute thing. I ended up having to go call a Brewer high school football game because we were short a man due to COVID. And so I ended up having to go out there. I don't remember how I didn't miss the Fyffe game that week, so I don't remember how that happened. But our man was down; he had COVID, so I ended up taking his place. And the team they were playing, I want to say it was. I may misspeak here, and I don't want to, but I want to say it was Priceville. That's the team that's coming to my mind for some reason. And so when I got to the stadium, I didn't have a whole lot of prep time. I didn't have a whole lot to go off of. I mean, literally, like the day of the game is when I found out I had to go out there. So I had no time to do any kind of prep. So basically, a lot of what, if you were to ever go back and listen to the broadcast, a lot of what I give in my opening monologue, I'm kind of reading it off my phone live on the air, just kind of winging it as I go. And then the first time I watch as that other team, I think, like I said, Priceville comes out for warmups and they start going through their last minute. Okay, this is what we're doing. I went, holy crap! It's the ugly offense. It's not being, with all due respect, ran very well, but holy crap! And that was sort of the first taste that I had gotten that folks have really tried or are trying to repeat the model, if you will, that Coach Benefield has established. And what a lot of folks don't understand is they see the 15 games a year winning state championships and they think that's all it is. And if they just run this offense, that boom, they're going to have the success, when that's not the case. And and Coach Benefield will tell you, while the ugly offense is important, it's changed how Fyffe does things. It's not the most important building block of these championships. It's what they've done in the weight room and in strength and conditioning. And because the mindset was kind of already getting to where it needed to be anyway, especially in 13, you kind of got a taste of what it could be like to get back to, like a 07 championship run, but they weren't able to quite make it. You guys didn't quite make it there, Drew. But then when you change not only offense, but you change your mentality in the off season, that's where the championships are won, because you get in there, you build for the grind. There's a reason why it's rare that Fyffe goes, a season and doesn't have 15, 20 kids go down to injury. It's rare because they not only take care of themselves, but they get in and they do the conditioning right. They hit the weights right. We talked with Tucker a few weeks ago when he said that the coaches have to pull them off the weights sometimes because they don't want them to get hurt. They do it the right way, and it starts there. That's why the models are getting put out there.
Yeah, but then there was multiple. I mean, when I was in school, there was still kids that did get hurt. There was some in my class and some in classes before me that I want to say a couple of them may have been working out after school, and then one of them was working out during school. So it's not, I don't want to say it never happens, because freak things do happen. But
yeah,
the biggest thing about somebody not getting hurt weightlifting is being taught the right way to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And anybody that walks in there, I would say this is unique, that anybody that walks in, Coach Benefield is always sitting out watching all the time.
Yep.
He don't just write stuff on the board and then run and sit in his office and look at his computer. Like he's always out, even the 7th and 8th graders, he's always out there watching them work out. And I promise you, he is not afraid to point out when somebody's doing it wrong.
No, he's not.
But
I've been in there. He's not.
No, it's the funniest thing. He can just be standing there talking to you straight face, like everything's just hunky dory, and then all of a sudden he turns and loses it on somebody. And that's the way you have to be for high school kids. That doing a rep wrong one time could ruin their whole life.
Yeah.
So, it's important, and he does a really good job of teaching how to do it right. And then, holding them to that the whole time, all the way through.
Yeah. There is a reason why Coach Benefield is held in such high regard throughout the state. And it's not just because of 7 rings that he's got, and trophies sitting in the trophy case. It's because of how well his program is run. And it wasn't always that way before he got there. And even in the first year or two, he'll tell you it was challenging and he had thoughts of stepping away. He was implored, stay with us. Just do your thing, give it time. And sure enough, here we are, especially in the last decade, talking about 7 championships in 10 seasons and just how far this Fyffe football program has come. All right, let's transition and let's get these other guys involved in the conversation. I know that they've enjoyed sitting and listening, but they also enjoy getting in on the conversation. Let's move on to the college football playoff. And normally I'm not one to find something on Twitter and just say, hey guys, let's bring this up. But I found this absolutely fascinating where the college football playoffs are concerned. We already know that they're expanding to 12 teams this season. And we haven't even gotten to this season, and they're already talking about the future and expansion for it, talking about how in 2026 we could be up to 16 teams and such. And Reese Davis this week, this was on the On3 Twitter account. Reese Davis made a case for a 16-team college football playoff on the College Game Day podcast, which I guess I need to start listening to. And he said, quote, since we have expanded beyond the very small playoff, I would prefer just going ahead and going to 16, playing the first 2 rounds on campus and eliminating the conference championship games. Your thoughts, guys. JB, I'll start with you.
Yeah, I'm full support of that. But I'm a Notre Dame fan, so
yeah,
we're not in a conference at the time being, and I know there's rumors that Notre Dame's rumored to go to the Big Ten, but these conferences have become super conferences. Like you don't have 8, 10 conferences anymore. You have like 4 major conferences. All the teams are in there. So if you cut out the conference championship game, you play them by rank or do a little sub playoff contention or whatever, just to kind of iron everything out. Then you eliminate a lot of, I believe, complaining later because everyone's given the same equal share. Now your top team will always play your bottom team or whatever. So, bottom team wins, top team doesn't have anything to say. So I like this idea. And plus it just opens up the whole playing field. Suddenly you have great games to watch. You don't have these Alabama versus Eastern Michigan kind of games. You have Alabama versus whoever is that at that period in time, up in the SEC, say Georgia or someone like that. You get better competition, you get better game. Notre Dame is no longer just subject to the independent side of things. They can be thrown into the mix of playing some of these top-notch teams. So again, I would have nothing to complain about when they lose, right? So they played a top-notch team. They lost. We move on. So, yeah, I kind of like it. I mean, and these conferences are getting out of control. Just that. And then again, we talked about it last week, money game. It's all about the money. Advertising dollars, bringing in key players. I mean, the NIL is going to ultimately ruin college football as we ever know it.
Yeah.
Our kids will know it differently than we know it now. So, it's all about who's going to get paid. Nick Saban was quoted that one of the reasons why he departed was, one of the questions that was asked is how much playing time am I going to get and how much money are you going to pay me?
Yep.
And that changes everything. And people like Deion Sanders ain't going to worry about throwing money at a kid. So, You're going to have these coaches out there, just whatever we have to throw at you, we'll throw at you. We got these donors, they're unlimited. So I like the idea of eliminating the conference championship. Now I'm a little biased, but I still think it makes it good. I still think that you see conferences and teams eliminate early, make it exciting. I mean, you can't have an underdog team in it if they don't have a chance to start in it.
Right.
That's my thoughts.
Yeah. Well, that's one of the cool things about the NCAA tournament in basketball. It does allow for those Cinderellas to get hot and play at the right time. And that's what makes the tournament. And I get it, football, college football, is massive in comparison to college basketball. But that's why I love college basketball even today, because it still allows field of 64. Somebody is going to get upset. That's what makes it interesting. Why are we wasting our time moving up to 12 and let's just go ahead and go full blown, go 16 teams. And I'm going to say it because I used to enjoy the bowl games. Look, crucify that, kill that sacred calf, man. It's got to go. It's got to go. If you want to keep the top ones and make that call some of those playoff matchups like they have, call it a bowl game. But I'm all for that. Allow things to work themselves out. That way we don't see a beat down in the national championship like we did the year before last. We still might see it. I don't know. But I think that minimizes the chance of that. I think it creates some excitement for teams that maybe they couldn't crack that 4, but they're right there. I just, I think we just got to call it what it is. And I think they just, it's semi-pro football, guys. It's what it is. And that's why it's going to have to be treated. I don't even know that. I think the days of giving scholarships, if there's that much money in
why are they giving them a scholarship
in football, and we all know they're not making full use of that scholarship. You associate with the university or whatever if you want to, but it's a separate entity. If there's that much money floating around to pay these players, then run it like a pro league, pay the players, have a budget, have a salary cap, cut players. Let's just call it what it is and quit messing around with it, because it's too far gone at this point. There is no way to recover this and bring it back to what it was.
Well, go ahead, Drew.
Well, I was going to say, I'm with y'all. Y'all make good points. I just don't. So why, I'm with JJ on why are we even messing around? It's not what's the point of even playing a regular season? Let's just do spring games and, fall camp, and then let them decide. They're all going to decide anyway. Let them decide who the top 32 or 64 team is and just start from the beginning. Just make it a
the whole thing playoff.
I mean,
there's an idea.
I mean, what's the point of even playing a regular season? I mean, that if you're the NCAA, that takes the power from the conferences. I guess that's what they're trying to do, because then the conferences have took all the power from them. So they're trying to take some back. So.
Well, I'm with the three of you, but here's my thing on it. I do love the conference championship games for the most part. Like in the SEC, it's a great game. It's always at 3:00 in the afternoon, or at least it has been since it's not been on CBS. ESPN will probably change that now that they've got the contract. But I would watch it and then turn around and turn on like the Big Ten championship. The Pac-12 championship has always been on Friday night, so you kind of get a full 2 days worth of championship games there, and they're usually pretty good games for the most part. I enjoy them. My question is, if we were to do this and we just end up adding more games, we're already in the NFL model, and you're adding more of these games on these kids that when they do move up and the ones who do go into the NFL a few years ago added a 17th game to the regular season plus the playoffs. So they're playing 21, up to 20 or 21 games. And we're trying to do that in college ball. We're going to run these kids, and kill them. And you're going to talk about the average. We used to always talk about average age of running backs in the NFL. This is the age that they get past their peak or their prime. They don't usually, are any good past 27, 28 years old, whatever the case is, that number is going to go down because we're putting all the wear and tear on these kids in college. So my part of my solution to that would be, and this is just me spitballing off the top of my head, what if, to JB's point, we eliminated, say, 2 games in the regular season instead of a 12-game regular season, go to a 10-game regular season. And we know it can be done because they did it. The SEC did it back in 2020, 4 years ago. Now, it was an all-conference schedule, but still, they can play a 10-game schedule that makes pretty much every game matter even more. It puts just that little bit more emphasis on it. You don't get those weekend before Thanksgiving Saturday cupcake games, if you will. Maybe you do one non-conference Power 5 game. If you're the SEC, you do one game and then the other 9 make them conference games. I mean, even Coach Saban, before he retired, made the comment that he is all for going to a 9-game conference schedule instead of 8 games. So you're having to fill in 4 games there. Why not go to 10 games and do one non-conference Power 5 game, Alabama, Virginia Tech, like they've done in the past, or they played Louisville. Why not do that and go to a 9 conference game schedule, and then you can still incorporate 2 more rounds for the playoffs if necessary for teams that don't get a bye or whatever. I think that could help sort of alleviate some of that wear and tear that we're obviously desperately paying these athletes to get now through NIL. And as much out of hand as that is, I mean, I don't like opening the season 2-3 straight games and you're playing Little Sisters of the Poor. I don't like that. So why not eliminate some of those?
And I like that idea. I like the all conference play. With as large as these conferences have gotten, there ain't no reason not to play in every game in conference. And then on top of that, you kind of wipe out the whole scenario of a conference championship. You've kind of already decided by game 9 who's top tier and who isn't. I mean, there's no question who's going to move on into the 16 game playoffs. You know it right from the get-go because of how they've played all season. And they're playing the same competition. The people who the SEC brings in. Now, to go to JJ's point about the scholarship play, if they're going to pay these players to play, they don't need the scholarship because they can afford their own tuition. You transfer those scholarship opportunities to those scout team members or those offensive players who are second and third string that never get to play, the people who have to work second jobs just to be able to go to college on top of that football schedule. That's how you handle that. My firm belief, though, you put a salary cap on what these kids can get paid.
That I think that could solve a lot of your problems.
Yep.
I mean, because that I've heard. I mean, we know a couple college athletes, and we know the numbers that are getting thrown at them, and it's it's just ridiculous.
Yeah, you give them enough to have to be better off than the other players, like your stars.
Yeah.
And then you just kind of filtered it down from there. But you give a kid $5,000-$10,000 a month, that's a lot of money. That's a lot of money for anybody, but that's a lot of money. That ain't enough money to buy a Lamborghini. That ain't enough money to just go out and blow it and buy all this expensive crap that means nothing. But that gives them enough money to live on, more than enough money to live on. And, if they're smart, they save. If they're not, they blow it all on jewelry and stupid things. But at the same time, you're limiting their exposure. And before anybody gets any NIL deal, you throw them through a financial wellness class. Teach them how to manage their money. Teach them how to use their money in a smart, economical way. Remind them that your shelf life is 3 to 5 years, probably, depending on the position. You need to plan for after football.
Well, and they can't have agents still, right? Adam? They can't have agents until
they're not supposed to. But
you're just handing an 18-year-old kid. I mean, they're making more than I am, and I work 50 hours a week.
Yep.
And you're just handing it to them.
Have you guys watched the Johnny Manziel, Shannon Sharp thing? That's like an hour and a half on YouTube. I think it's called the Shay Shay Lounge or something like that. He interviewed Johnny Manziel, and one of the segments came out. Manziel spent like 10 minutes talking about the bag man. Every university has a bag man. They had it, before he even got to college when he was a junior and senior being recruited. All these schools he went to, he specifically mentioned Alabama having a bag man. And of course, this comes as no surprise to anybody that all these schools, Alabama's not exempt. JJ, you're muted, by the way. But all these schools are not exempt from that. Even as Bama fans, we want to be like, no, they play by the rules. Okay, no, every school's got a bag man. But now the bag man's a legal thing, first of all. The bag man can come out and there'll be no repercussions to anything because it's all legal. It's wild, wild west. The judge put an injunction against the NCAA for going after Tennessee, said you got to halt, cease and desist. You can't do anything to them, which was, in my opinion, the right thing to do. But you also to the salary cap point, I think it's funny he mentioned Lamborghini because it was one of the cards that ran through my mind. The other one being a Miata, because you look at somebody like Isaiah Bond who left Alabama, and the day after he announces he's leaving, he shows up on his Instagram feed with a Lamborghini next to it in Austin, Texas. I think cars like that, the amount, the money, any car, not just cars like that, but any car that is being given to a kid ought to go towards that salary cap. You get its value, and you say, okay, that's a hit on your salary cap. I'm sorry, that's a hit on what we can give you.
So Eric Dickerson somewhere's going, hey, I just got a Trans Am. I got a Trans Am, and these kids are getting Lamborghinis. So y'all are too young to. Y'all too young to know anything about that, but
I know all about it. Eric
Reggie Bush ought to have his Heisman given back to him too.
Yep, absolutely. I agree that 100%.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd be screaming to high heavens. And hey, and look, you know how we feel about the team up the road, but if I'm Jeremy Pruitt, I'm going, hey, you run me out of town because of this, and now it's just a free for all.
Yep.
Well,
you know.
Let me say this on the Reggie Bush thing, because Johnny Manziel brought that up too, and I'm not going to give you what he said because y'all probably seen it, know what all he said. Said he's not going to attend the Heisman ceremony anymore until Reggie Bush is reinstated. Here's my thing. The only reason the Heisman Trust won't give it back is because the NCAA won't reinstate the stats. They won't give Reggie back his stats. And here's my thing. The stats should never have been taken away in the first place, but guys, it's legal now, and y'all probably crucify me when I say this. Yeah, it's legal now. It wasn't legal then. It was 05. It was breaking the rules.
Then take it from all of them.
I get it. But he was the one that was busted. He was the one that had his mama and daddy living in a house that they didn't have to pay any rent for, and a booster and all this stuff. I mean, good. Let me ask you guys this. If I were to go rip off a grocery store right now, that's illegal. I get busted for it. I get arrested. I get put in prison. I got to pay a fee to bail out, and I got to go stand before a judge and everything. And the judge says, well, you stole a plasma screen TV. You stole all these things. You got to do some time. You got to spend some time in jail. Well, after a year, they decide all of a sudden everything's legal. You can steal whatever you want. Does that mean that my record be wiped clean because it was illegal when I did it? Does that mean
your record isn't wiped clean? It still occurred. You can't change the past and say, well, it didn't happen. It did happen. However, the rules have changed, and you would be released immediately because the rules have changed.
Well, and that's like saying if I was a part of a mob that robbed a store and they picked me out of the crowd and said, hey, you're going to take the fall for all this. Is that right? Or should they all just take it away from all of them, or charge everybody?
Well, like I said, again, he was the one that he was the one that got busted. I don't remember how he got busted. I was in 8th, 9th grade, I guess. But I wouldn't. It wouldn't bother me. Let me say this. It wouldn't bother me if they gave Reggie his Heisman back. It really wouldn't. I'd be like, okay, good for you. Didn't affect my life, not one bit.
Nope.
Whatever.
Well, and here's my question:
if they don't, it's not going to hurt me at all either. I'm all for standing on your ground. Stand your ground. I'm good with it.
And also, what's the point really of taking it away from him? We all know he won it.
Right.
Yeah. True.
It's almost like it's just lip service.
Or for
we all know he was the best player in college football that year. And I think that was not questioned, to be honest with you. I think there's other years where I don't know, but he was legit that year.
Well, here's the thing: as we try to get back to the playoff thing, I'm going to say if we can get down to a 10-game regular season, I would love for the conference championships to stay in place. Only because I do think they still provide some of the most pivotal matchups of the season, especially within like the SEC and the Big Ten. Those are major playoff implications. Now, I get we're going into the expanded, whether it's 12 team or 16 teams in a couple of years, whatever it is. They have been crucial to getting teams in or teams getting left out. You know, I don't think the impact will be near as heavy because we're expanding and allowing more teams to get in. So even if you lose the conference championship, if you're, let's say they stick with a 12-game season and you lose your conference championship, you're 11-1 going to that conference championship, or you're 12-0, whatever the case is. Maybe you've lost 2 games, 3 games going into that, and you lose it. You could still get an at-large bid. You could still get in. So it's not as heavy of a consequence for losing. But I still enjoy them. And with the SEC now moving to the 1 and 2 model versus the East and West divisions, which, by the way, they've been in basketball for some time now, and it seems to work out. I would love to keep the conference championships, but I would really love to see the regular season trim back to 10 games. I don't know about you guys. I really enjoyed that 2020 season where it was all conference. Every game mattered.
Yeah.
You know what if you want to keep your conference championship, then you should have at least a 4-team conference playoff.
Ooh.
You know, as opposed to just 2 teams, make it 4 teams. You still get your 10 games. You still get your 2 playoff games leading up into the games of 16. That's the thought.
Well, let's get this train moving on down the tracks a little further, and let's transition to what is the favorite segment of the show. I'm going to say that each and every week as we get ready for the 10 minutes of crap. I got to do the singing thing every time. So I have no idea what these guys are going to say. But I told them earlier, like I said, let's have some laughs. Let's bring our A game on it. Let's not tell anybody. JJ, I'm going to give you the honor of getting us rolling here tonight for our 10 minutes of crap.
Oh boy. Well, I'll be honest with you. I don't know where I'm going to go with this, but a couple of thoughts. When we're talking about professional athletes and their contracts, so we know NFL free agencies right now. It's going on. Go Derrick Henry.
Going nuts.
Yeah, going nuts. So a couple of things, but it's amazing to me to see a team release players, release starters because of budget to meet the budget. So case in point, Buffalo Bills this week released 3 starters, 2 defensive starters, long-term center Mitch Morse, released them just to make and get under the salary cap. And so here's this. To me, this is a vicious cycle because I've heard players talking, saying, hey, you better get your money while you can. Get your money while you can. And I don't disagree with that at all. I think you ought to get your money while you can because your athletic ability, your physical abilities are going to be limited at that level.
College players too, by the way. College
players, by the way. And that's what's happening. But they say, get your money while you can. And when you sign those long-term contracts, though, or when you sign those big contracts, what you've done, yes, you're going to get that money, but you're most likely never see the end of that contract because what you've basically did is you're going to be switching teams in a couple years because they're not going to pay that money anymore. It's to get transferred to someone else.
Well, and I'll say this, but that's why you see those guaranteed dollars going up too.
That's right. But so it's a vicious cycle. So I get what they're saying. Get your money while you can. And on the max deals and the things, who's ever saw anybody, I don't care if it's baseball, if it's football, basketball, who signed a max contract. They killed it and went out in free agency and got a max contract. Who's earned that money? Who ever lived up to the money that they signed for? This week, Russell Wilson, who I think is a joke and a phony. He got lucky to have a great defense and great running game. And if he was smart, he would have audibled and gave it to Marshawn. They'd have 2 Super Bowls instead of 1. Instead, he's going to do what the coach said, and throw the football to Malcolm Butler. Another story. But signed a big deal. Went to the Broncos. Let's ride. Him and all of his motivational goodness. And look, they ate over $80 million just to get rid of him.
Yeah.
Just to get him away.
And he signed with Pittsburgh for like
for a
nothing.
league for a minimum.
Yeah,
for a minimum.
nothing.
And he's still getting paid.
$72 million.
Here's my thought. These people that run these operations, they're supposed to be a lot smarter than us. They're supposed to be. But some of these moves are some of the most boneheaded moves when you know it's not going to work. You're not going to get your money's worth out of that player. Look, Kirk Cousins, I know y'all are excited. I think that's an upgraded quarterback. But I'm going to tell you, I'm not so sure. I'm going to wait and see. He had an Achilles injury. Yeah. We'll see if that works out. 36 years old.
Too. He's not
36 years old. So final thing, the most staggering thing I've ever seen. I'll get this, NBA, Ben Simmons, season's over. Get this, 8 seasons. Ben Simmons has only been available to play 332 out of 646 regular season games. He has earned $163 million, which translates to, let me see, $42 million a season. And this year he averaged 6 points a game. 6 points. Have these people lost their mind? Have they lost their mind? Oh, hey, pay me that much. I could probably get that much of output for you. I mean, at least people would show up to watch the old white kid or white man with a white beard get out there and get killed for that amount of money. Unbelievable.
I mean,
I'd pay to see it.
I mean, to your point, here's a good one. The Panthers turned down first-round picks for Brian Burns at the trade deadline. First-round picks, right? Yep. Now they just traded him to the Giants for a second and a fifth.
Geniuses. All you people, geniuses.
But then the Giants turned around and signed him to a $150 million contract. Well, and he was the best player on the worst team in the NFL. Good job. You're paying him $150 million.
The Panthers are a joke in the NFC South anyway.
Today, the Buccaneers traded off a cornerback, a third and a 6th round draft pick. They traded him for a 3rd round draft pick.
Yeah, it's Carlton Davis from Auburn.
They didn't. Okay, so they didn't trade for money. They didn't trade for people. They traded for a draft pick. I mean, how does that think about your value?
By the way, for our listeners, for our watchers, we are recording this on Monday evening, and this will air Thursday. So a lot of these things, there's going to be a lot more of this come out in the time that we record this to the time this actually airs on YouTube, Facebook, Spotify. So just be mindful of that. We're giving you only what we know up to the Monday timeline.
We're on Derrick Henry watch. He has not signed yet.
Yes.
Derrick Henry signed a deal the next day, a 2-year contract with the Baltimore Ravens. Sorry, Titans fans.
It's not supposed to rain here.
All right, Drew, take off.
I'll say this about the Falcons draft. I think they take Dallas Turner at 8.
That's good.
From your lips to God's ears.
He's fast.
All right,
that's all I gotta say.
Go ahead.
Did you say it was my turn?
Yeah, it's your turn. Go ahead.
Okay. Here's my opening, I guess you could call it. So, Alabama, obviously they lost Nick Saban. No, it's not going to be the same. I'm not going to say that it's ever going to be the same. But those who say that Kalen DeBoer can't recruit are real quiet right now. And here's why. So since he's arrived on campus, they did land 5-star plus Ryan Williams. They flipped 4-star defensive lineman Antonio Coleman from Auburn. And then they got 2 commitments this week from Derek Smith and Zamir Smith. Both are top 15 athletes in the 25 class. And also the portal additions of Keon Sabb, Austin Mack, Jeremy Bernard, and Parker Brailsford. So I know that it's not going to be the same. I'm not saying it is going to be the same. And Alabama ain't going nowhere. I promise you.
Roll Tide.
No.
Roll Tide.
And of course, with the expansion, every team it's not just Alabama, but with the expansion of the playoff, every team gets a little breather. You can afford to lose a game. Heck, you can afford to lose 2 games and have a darn good chance of getting in via an at-large bid.
Let's be honest, though. Alabama Nation, they ain't going to allow that. They ain't going to be happy with that. If it's not almost an undefeated season, the fan base will roar louder than anyone else.
No. I'm gonna wholeheartly disagree. We can't say that. How many of these championships under Nick Saban were actually undefeated?
I've seen some Alabama fans. Okay, I've seen a few. I've read some text messages from some Alabama fans that may or may not be on this podcast right now. That anytime
that's
Alabama
basketball.
It don't matter football or basketball. Y'all
Don't
just
even get me.
y'all have a good time. And so I'm just saying the fan base is not going to accept anything but perfection. See, I'm a Notre Dame fan. I understand they're probably going to lose 2-3 games a year. Already know that going into it.
Yeah, you wouldn't know anything about perfection.
Right. So I undefeatedness happened back in like 88. You know, I was just a wee little one. So I'm just saying that Alabama fans still expect perfection, even though we've changed head coaches, even though the NIL is part of it now. I mean, you can't afford to lose a couple games and still get into the playoffs because you still have your name on top of everything else. You're still part of the SEC. But fans still want to see that undefeated. They want to see that 0 after the win.
That's true. I'm not saying he's lying. I'm just saying that the chirpers out there and I would say mostly Auburn fans really. All the Saban discount is gone. You know, Alabama's going in the gutter.
We've gone nearly an hour into this podcast without mentioning the Barners, and there they go. You just brought them up. Yeah.
Well, I got 2 more things.
Hold on. Let me ask JB a question here right quick. JB, wasn't it not your coach in January of 2013 that said at halftime the best thing for Notre Dame would be for Alabama not to come out of the locker room?
Man, that was not a fun game. You do know that I was the only Notre Dame fan in Dothan, Alabama at Buffalo Wild Wings watching the game.
No, I didn't know that.
But do you also know that no one talked smack to me until they were across the parking lot getting into their car?
Well, look at you.
Have you looked, JB, have you looked in the mirror?
Okay, Drew, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I wouldn't talk smack if we were in the same room ever. I don't care what's happening.
He would kiss the ring.
Yeah.
Nah.
Yeah, he's like, I'm not going that far.
Go ahead, Drew. Finish your thought there.
Second thing, I do want to throw out a congrats to a Fyffe player. Logan Anderson tweeted earlier that he did get his first official college football offer from UNA.
Hey,
he visited UNA over the weekend.
Yeah,
and
so that was his first. It was his first offer. So the ones that are wondering, has he got any offers? Yes, but just one right now. UNA.
I had gone last Thursday to the Dream Team basketball league, I guess is what it would be. It's a league up at Rainsville First Baptist. And first of all, let me just say it's the first time I'd ever gotten to be there. JJ, I know you and Greg a lot of times will get together and go watch some of these high school games, these big high school games. I think an episode or 2 ago you mentioned y'all going to Scottsboro and Fort Payne. Let me just tell you, I know you're the biggest basketball purist as far as this panel is concerned. If you want to talk about seeing basketball in its most pure, enjoyed form, where there's not that if I don't make it, I'm going to beat myself up kind of thing and get mad, and you need to go watch that, because what it is, it's a league of special needs people, both young and older. And I was there to watch a buddy of mine named Travis. Shout out to my buddy Travis Crowder. To play. We had never been. It was the last game of the season, and there were more people there than I realized that I would know, with special needs people and their family playing in it. And it was awesome. And one of those people is Tate Anderson, Logan's little brother. And I had already known it because I'm friends with Greg and them on Facebook and see pictures all the time. But I had a busy day, didn't think about seeing them there, and I got to watch pure joy. Just I mean, eke out of all these kids, even when they didn't make it, they would come over and they'd pat the other one on the head, say it's okay, it's okay, and they'd just be an encouragement. And when they made it, everybody cheered. Everybody's just yay. The whole arena went nuts. There was no, oh man, it was, and I just couldn't help but be like, man, now this is basketball. I could get behind this wholeheartedly. This is awesome. I thought to myself, man, I would love to call this on the radio, not because it would be fun to call from a let's poke fun kind of standpoint, but it would be fun to call to help them express their joy, to put that out there. And man, it was awesome. But getting back to Logan. Logan wasn't just there to support Tate. Logan was active. And see, what they do is they allow, parents, or they deem them coaches, to be out there because some of these people need help. They need help walking, help with direction, which way to go. Logan was out there not solely with Tate either. He helped Tate, but he helped several other special needs people out there. And it was awesome to see. And I didn't realize at the time, I ended up sitting right behind Logan's grandfather, whom I'd never met before until that evening. And Ashley's father. There's another shout out. And got to talking with him. And of course, we talked about those beefcakes that Logan now has for thighs after hitting the weight room, because he was wearing them short shorts. And every time he took a step, it was like he was flexing 6 ways to Sunday. But it moved my heart. And in fact, I got a tweet back at me earlier because I'd mentioned Logan Anderson in a tweet was not getting the respect he deserves, top 10 back in the state. And somebody tweeted at me that they had gotten to meet him at UNA over the weekend, and that he seemed like a great kid. And I said, man, he's very humble, and getting to watch him out there with those people on Thursday night really done my heart a lot of good. And I see the heart of the kid. And so just a huge congratulations to Logan. I don't remember why I even brought all that up. It just was there. Congrats to Logan on getting his first offer. Oh, I do know what it was. It's because his grandfather turned around and asked me, what have you heard the latest on Logan getting offers? So now we can break that going, on Fyffe Focus, the podcast. Logan broke it himself, so we can bring it out there. Congrats to Logan, an offer from UNA. And I would dare, I'm going to go on the record. It's the first of many to come. He's got a full season left. His knee is holding out strong. Folks have asked me, why has there not been an offer? And I would dare say it might be because they're waiting and doing the due diligence on the knee. His knee's fine. He's back. Caden Sharp got cleared the other day to go back running for the first time, and he injured that first round of the playoffs, the week of the first round of the playoffs. He's ready to run. In fact, he's going to start running with me. So we're able to get these kids up moving faster. Logan's good. Congrats, Logan. JB, take off.
Well, we talked about weightlifting earlier and doing proper techniques, and one thing that slips through the cracks a lot is conditioning in the off season for these football players, for these basketball players, for these baseball players. The good and the bad from doing this off season workouts and doing these 3 team sports that these kids do nowadays is wear and tear. So conditioning is of the utmost important. Peyton Anderson coming back as quickly or Peyton Anderson doing it in that, what was it, the playoffs? He did a high ankle sprain, ended up coming back until
we had like 3 in one game.
Yeah, so he came back like I think the semifinal and then the final. And then you have his brother Logan, who comes back from a pretty horrific injury, fighting it back. Caden Sharp comes back and that's all due to proper training, proper nutrition, physical therapy, which a lot of people hate to do, but most important.
There's a reason they tell you to do that stuff.
Yeah, I mean, my knee surgery, physical therapy, I didn't do it the first time. The second one I did, made a big difference. I've never worked with a resistant band and sweated more in my life than I did doing those exercises those physical therapists had me doing. So kudos to the players who get injured and then come back and prove everyone wrong. Being young men, it's better to have your injury now than it is later. The older you get, the harder it is to recover. Still have any issues today. But proper lifting will help with that. It also helps keep weight off, at least the bad weight. And as far as your Atlanta Falcons go, Brady is a huge fan of Kirk Cousins coming in. He's talked
Oh,
about
he
it.
he texts me.
Yeah, I'm not even surprised. So he's a huge fan. I like to play a little bit of devil's advocate with him, kind of throw that bad stuff out there. I mean, right now my 49ers have a 23-year-old kid who's just slinging it like no other. So I don't have any room, but Tom Brady went to Tampa being older. Drew Brees had to eventually retire. So I think a 4-year, what was it, $120 million and like 100, yeah,
It was 180.
yeah, 180. But like what was it, 150 guaranteed? It was an obscene
It was
number.
right at 100, I think.
Just an obscene number to be guaranteed.
Yeah.
For a 36-year-old quarterback who may or may not come back the same way he left.
Yeah.
I mean, he was a gunslinger. He got a lot of stuff done. Minnesota didn't have a whole lot of name brand quality receivers, but they still were able. He was able to put up 300 yards plus, multiple games in a row. So I hope it turns out well for Atlanta. I have my doubts because of the age and the injury. Maybe you might get 2 good seasons out of him before you want to step off. My question to you, Adam, is: do you want to keep your backup, or do you want to draft for a younger quarterback?
Launch him into the sun.
Hey,
Launch Desmond Ritter into the freaking sun.
Yeah,
so he may be a good guy. Okay, listen, he may be a good guy. He's not a quarterback. I was not a fan of his at Cincinnati. When Alabama played them in the playoff, I didn't think Cincinnati belonged there. I think that was just a political move by the playoff committee to get some of the pungents off their backs and whatever. I don't think Desmond Ritter's the guy. I think he ought to be kind of like what
somebody did.
Well, yeah, and they made a bad choice, and that's why Dimitroff is not there anymore.
I'll say this:
I think that one thing that, like we said, Mac Jones was going to be like stuck as a backup the rest of his career. Desmond Ritter ought to be like a third string backup the rest of his career and making whatever $100,000 a year at that, if that. Drew's frozen on us here.
Hey, so
go ahead. While he gets his crap together.
He's frozen.
Somebody, let's take a print screen of this. Let's hit print screen and okay, I got it. There we go. Print screen.
So all I want to say about Kirk Cousins, I'm a fan, and that might get me to root for the Falcons and get over my, hatred for them blowing a 25-point Super Bowl. But let me say this. Please, for the love of God, Arthur Blank, anybody, Raheem Morris, do not let Kirk Cousins come out on opening night with an American flag and run onto the field. Do not do it. For the love of God, keep the look, I love America. I've got a flag on my hat. For the love of God, do not let Kirk Cousins carry a flag of any kind.
Yep.
Matter of fact, put him on a golf cart and roll him out there. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying.
By the way, on the contract talks, and Drew is back with us, so I'll get him on here with us now. But on the contract thing, by the way, of the 4 years, I don't remember the exact numbers, but it's only 3 years of the 4 are guaranteed. There's no guaranteed money whatsoever in year 4, and I found that fascinating. Like you said, JB, maybe 2 good years out of him. It sounds to me like Atlanta's trying to bank on 3, and maybe 3 at most. They're not banking on the full 4 and getting him to 40 years old. He's not going to be a Tom Brady. He does take very good care of himself. You could see that in that Netflix special, Quarterbacks, or whatever they call it on Netflix. I thought it was really well done. It made me feel sorry for Marcus Mariota, made me really, really like Kirk Cousins, and really made me dislike Patrick Mahomes. And I don't know if that was what they were trying to do, but that's exactly what they did. Mahomes can ball. He's a baller, no doubt about it. But I can't stand him from a personal level, and maybe I shouldn't say that as a Christian, as a pastor. I don't know. I just don't like him. I can't.
The persona
that he's out there. That's right. The persona that he puts out there, Drew.
Well, that contract is $180 million, 45 per season. That it's $100 million guaranteed. So if he were to get cut, they'll have to pay him the $100 million, but basically $45 million a year. But listen, I think, and Adam talked about it a little bit. I think that no, does he fit your timeline for? I don't want to call it a rebuild. No, but who does? Who better right now? You used to go sign Russell Wilson.
No.
What other quarterbacks out there? Gardner Minshew. Is he that much of an upgrade than Desmond Ridder? Well, I mean, here's why I say you need somebody now. Here's your offense in Atlanta: Jake Matthews, Caleb McGarry, Chris Lindstrom, all Pro Bowlers. Kyle Pitts, Drake London, B.J. Robinson, or Bijan. Do they really need? They just need somebody to stand back there and throw the ball?
To manage the game.
Yep.
And they've got a good offensive line.
Wait. You saying he's a game manager?
Yeah.
I'm saying they need somebody to be a game manager right now more than anything else.
They need somebody to be able to get Kyle Pitts and Bijan Robinson the ball.
Yeah, and not only that, they need a defense. When Atlanta would build a lead last year, you could guarantee you halfway through the third quarter, here comes the collapse. I promise you, they need defensive help. Maybe they're going to go after Dallas Turner out of Bama. I don't know. That's the word that they're targeting.
I don't know
Dallas Turner, but they got to get 7 spots going before they can get
problem.
Raheem Morris is a defensive coach, so he's gonna try to shore up that defense for sure. I'd say that Dallas Turner is a good start.
I think it brings up an interesting move inside the top 10 in the draft, because now if you're the Vikings, what do you do? I mean, do you try and move up to grab a franchise guy? Because they just spent all of their money on their defense. They just spent a whole butt ton of money on defense today.
Yeah,
good point.
So I think they didn't really think Kirk was leaving. So
yeah.
But anyway, I think that's interesting. I think they don't want to deal Justin Jefferson, but I think his name will come up in the next few days.
Yeah, I think they got
somebody they can move on.
All right, one final bit here in the 10 minutes of crap, and this will be mine. I was debating on going back and forth on this. I think I'll use this tonight and save the other part for next week, because the other part's got nothing to do with sports like whatsoever. But since we've really kind of hit on sports all the way around tonight, let me see if I can get this pulled up here. I sent you guys this screenshot last night and told you to fill it out. I'm going to pull mine up on the screen right now. SEC tournament time. By the time this airs, we're already going to be a game or 2 or 3 in. So here is my bracket for the SEC tournament, and I went ahead and filled it out. I originally here had Missouri actually getting past Georgia in the first round. Missouri has not won a conference game. They have not won a game in I don't know how long. And I thought there's no possible way they're going to go winless in conference. They're at least going to get one conference win. Now it has to come in the tournament. I had Missouri here. And then I sat on that for about 5 minutes and said, no, Georgia's going to win it. I think Arkansas, I think Vanderbilt, unfortunately, is catching Arkansas at the wrong time in that first round, because Arkansas, we saw it the other day against Alabama on Saturday. They've got a couple of guys that are getting hot at just the right time. Now, I don't think they're going to be hot enough to make an NCAA tournament run, but they're hot enough to make some noise in this tournament. I think at least I don't have them getting past South Carolina, only because South Carolina is just that good, but it also wouldn't surprise me if Arkansas won that game. But here's my bracket. Does any of this shock anybody, or is this a logical bracket?
Shocks me that you got Alabama in the semifinals.
Yeah.
With a team that just beat them by 20.
Yeah.
I think Alabama gets the stick out of their butt. I think
I'll
a
say
few extra
this.
days rest will help them.
I'll say this.
I think the stick is going further up their butt.
Nate Oates is 10-0 in Nashville.
Yeah, he is. And the other part is Auburn and South Carolina. I found that game very fascinating. I was back and forth on that game.
Yeah,
I had to go South Carolina because Auburn does not play well away from Neville Arena at all.
I still think Auburn pulls that one out, but they're going to tote that butt whooping against Tennessee.
That's right. That's right. They go tote one.
I'm hoping we're starting to see the downfall of Tennessee here, but I have a rematch of Tennessee and Kentucky in the championship on that Sunday. I think it's going to be a classic championship game between those two. It was a very good game over the weekend, and I hated having to pull for Tennessee for Bama to get the 2 seed. Gosh, did I hate it? But Kentucky pulled it out. I think Tennessee ends up winning the SEC championship. I think Alabama beats Florida. They secure themselves as a lock as a 4 seed. They lose to Florida, they'll be a 5 seed. I think. I think. All right. Well, we have had a very fun, entertaining episode. Hopefully we can, at some point, I keep saying it every week, we can get all 5 of us on here. Maybe that'll happen next week. Before we get out here, let's tell you what's upcoming at Fyffe. And Drew will start us out this week.
Yeah, so the Fyffe Tri-Pines pageant is coming up Saturday, April 6th at 4 p.m. in the cafeteria at the high school. Applications are due as soon as possible. They can either be picked up at the high school or elementary office. You can also go to the Fyffe High School Facebook page, find the pageant post where they posted about it, and click the link. That will download the application form for you there.
And tonight, varsity and junior varsity baseball goes on the road to take on Woodville, with a first pitch being at 4:30. The junior varsity will then play Friday evening at Sylvania for a doubleheader, with the first pitch being at 4:30. Then the varsity team returns home Saturday for a doubleheader with Plainview and Coosa Christian. Game 1 is at 11 a.m. and Game 2 is at 3 that afternoon. Softball heads to Sand Rock tonight, with the first pitch being thrown at 4:30. Saturday, the ladies will head to center fields at GSCC for a tournament.
So we appreciate you guys doing that. We don't exactly have the full tournament information, but that would be Gadsden State Community College there at center fields for you. And imagine most of you will know a parent or two of the lady on that softball team. You can get that info from them. So coming up next week, we're going to try and hook up with a couple of young people to get on here, the Mr. and Miss Fyffe High School. Looking to get them on, and Caden Sharp and Miss Katie Edge, and hopefully get a chance to talk with them for a few minutes and catch up with what's happening with all of that. Of course, both of them seniors, had just had their prom, and we'll catch up with them, hopefully get that opportunity next week, as well as get back to our normal Where Was Greg t-shirt segment, among other things. And we hope you enjoyed this episode. Again, Fyffe Focus, the podcast presented by Froggy Freeze, 35 flavors, 3 trailers, fully licensed, certified. That's all I need to tell you, except for the fact of where you can find them by giving them a call simply at 256-717-7239. Again, 256-717-7239. Get them for your event, church event, family event, ball club event, whatever it might be. They will be glad to get with you, come out and not only serve you, but chat with you. They'll bend an ear and listen and chat it up with you. So go by and talk with our friends. Johnson's Froggy Freeze, again, 256-717-7239. And listen for their ad on the radio, 92.7 FM HD2. You can also catch it on our Facebook page, uploaded earlier on Monday. Give that ad a listen and let them know you heard their ad on Fun 92.7 HD2 or right here on this very podcast. Guys, I appreciate you joining us tonight. Jonathan Bartlett, Jeremy Johnson, and Drew Sims. Thank you guys so much for being here. It's always a great pleasure to talk with you, and we look forward to doing this again next week. You've been watching and listening to Fyffe Focus, the podcast. As we always say, God bless you and go Big Red.